a formal organization is created by the management, whereas an informal organization is a result of the interaction among employees. He is not completely losing all the authority. He will be just granting the authority to get the work done itself. Whatever the rules is laid down by the top management, it has to be followed by all the employees of the organization. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence. In this session 6 on organizing, I will be having a comparative view of the formal and informal organization. Along with that, we will be discussing about what is delegation, what are the elements of delegation. Okay, so let us look into what we have here in a comparative view of the formal and informal organization. Now, if you can see here, there is the basis here and what are the differences between formal and informal organization. Now, first let us look into the meaning of the word formal and informal. So, if you can see, in a formal organization, the structure of authority relationships are created by the management. So, a formal organization is created by the management, whereas an informal organization is a result of the interaction among employees. So, a formal organization is created by the management to attain the organizational goals, whereas an informal organization is done, it emerges automatically in an organization. So, we should know that formal organization is deliberately created, whereas informal organization comes into existence automatically. So, it is a result of social interaction between the employees of the organization. Next, let us look into the origin of formal organization. So, in a formal organization, it arises as a result of the company's rules and policies. So, what do you mean by company's rules and policies? So, it may be dependent on the decision of the organization structure. Suppose the company adopts a functional structure, then they will be a different type of a formal organization. Then if it adopts a divisional type of organization structure, then again they will be a different type of a formal organization. So it all depends on the company's plans and policies. Next, in informal organization, there is no such plans and policies to form an informal organization. It arises because of social interaction. So, whenever a large group of people meet and work together, there is bound to be social interaction, and as a result of this social interaction, we can see that there is an emergence of informal organization within the formal organization. Now, looking into the authority part of view, so it arises by virtue of position in the management. So, in a formal organization, we create positions. So, we divide the work, after dividing the work, we create departments, and in departments, we create various job positions, and each job position will have its own authority, responsibility and accountability. So, whatever is the authority, it will be decided by the job position in which that person is sitting. So, if he is in the position of a general manager, then he will have his own authority, he will have his own responsibility and he will have his own duties. But then, in case of an informal organization, it arises out of personal qualities. If a person is very dominant, if he is very outspoken, if he is very social, then he will be able to influence the other people in his group. So, he may not be in a very good position in the organization, but because of his nature, his outgoing nature and his social nature, so he may have an influence over the group members in the informal organization. So, he may command authority over the group members in the organization. Then, next is the behavior. So, in a formal organization, the behavior is created by the rules. So, whatever the rules is laid down by the top management, it has to be followed by all the employees of the organization. So, the rules are created and it has to be followed by all the employees. But in an informal organization, there is no set behavior pattern at all. So you can behave as you want. So there is no behavioral pattern here. So there is no set of rules to be followed, etc. Then next, regarding the communication. So communication takes place through the scalar chain. So in a formal organization, we know that there is a scalar chain or the chain of authority. So whenever the general manager has to give some information, he will send a circular to his subordinate. From there, the assistant manager will receive it, then he will give it to the zonal manager, then the officers, then the clerk, and so on. So the chain has to be followed. So whatever orders or instructions which are coming from the top level, so it has to follow the chain of authority and it has to reach the lowest levels of management. So this is how in a formal organization the communication will flow. But in an informal organization, there is no planned route. It can take any direction. So in an informal organization, you need not follow any chain. So anybody can tell anything about anything. So you can talk about any matter. So there is absolutely no restriction on what is the thing to be decided or anything. So there is no route to be followed also. So the communication is very free and very fast also in a informal organization. Then next is the nature of the formal organization. It is very rigid. So once the formal organization is decided by the top management, nobody can change it. So the structure of the formal organization is very rigid and it cannot be changed at all. But in an informal organization, it is very, very flexible. So anything can be changed in an informal organization as there are no rules to be followed and anybody can take the lead in an informal organization. Then next one is leadership. Here in a formal organization, managers are leaders. So whoever is in the topmost level of position, so he will be the leader and he will be leading his teammates, whereas in an informal organization, the leaders may or may not be managers. They are chosen by the group. So in an informal organization, the group members may select or may not select any one of the member of the group, and he may not hold any position, but he may be liked by all the group members. So in this way, we can see that the formal organization and an informal organization coexist in a business organization. When formal organization takes care of the organizational goals, the informal organization takes care of the social needs of the employees. It gives them job satisfaction. It also gives them the sense of belongingness towards the organization. So a formal and informal organization within a business organization is essential for running any business organization. So we have just had a discussion on what are the different organization structures, that is functional structure and the divisional structure, and later on what is a formal organization, what is an informal organization, and we have also had a comparative view of the formal and informal organization. Now let us look into the concept of the word delegation. So we always come across this word delegation. Now let us see what is the meaning of this word delegation. So let us look into why this concept has come into existence. Okay, so here we can see that here one person is in the top position and she has the right to give this power. So she has the right to grant her powers to her subordinates. Now let us look into the meaning of the word delegation. So a manager, no matter how capable he is, he cannot manage to do every task on his own. Okay, so if he is a manager of an organization, he will be doing multitasking. So he will have lot of jobs to do in one single day. So but he cannot do all the tasks himself. So what he will do is, the volume of work makes it impractical for him to handle it all by himself. So he will have to do so many jobs in one single day, and it is impracticable for him to do all the jobs all by himself. Now, what is the answer for this? Now, we have the answer in delegation. Now, what is this delegation? Delegation refers to the downward transfer of authority from superior to a subordinate. Okay, so as I told you, here she is the superior and she has lot of jobs to do. She has lot of tasks to do throughout the day. Now, what she will do is, she will grant her authority to her subordinates. So all these people, they are the subordinates. So what she will do is, she will just give some of her authority to her subordinates to see that the work is done. Now, it is a downward transfer of authority. It has to come from top to bottom. So, there is a downward transfer of authority from the superior to the subordinate. And it is a prerequisite to the efficient functioning of an organization. So, if an organization has to run, we need to have delegation. It is the most prerequisite. It is the most important aspect of any organization. So, a manager cannot do all the jobs himself. So, he has to delegate some part of his authority to his subordinates. Only then the management can run efficiently and effectively. So, it is a prerequisite for efficient functioning because it enables a manager to use his time on high priority activities. So as I told you earlier, the manager has to do lot of jobs during the span of 6 to 7 hours in the office. So he cannot do all the jobs himself. So he will grant the authority to his subordinates to get the job done and keep the important jobs to himself. So he will use his time on high priority activities. So those jobs which require his personal attention, only those jobs he will do, and all other activities he will be giving it to his subordinates. Okay, next. We'll also look into some more features of this delegation. So, why this delegation is important, and it also satisfies the subordinates' need for recognition and provides them with opportunity to develop and exercise initiative. So, whenever a manager grants his authority to his subordinates, so it will be an opportunity for the subordinate to prove himself. So, it will give them an opportunity to develop and exercise initiative. So, how well he can do the job. So, whenever he is assigned a special task, so that subordinate will use his own creativity, his own initiative to get the task done in the best possible way. So, in this way, he can prove himself that he is doing a better job than others. Then, next, delegation helps a manager to extend his area of operation, as without it, his activities will be restricted to only what he himself can do. However, delegation does not mean abdication. So, in case of a delegation helps the manager to extend his areas of operation. So, a manager can get the jobs, almost all the activities done through the help of delegation. So, with the help of his subordinates, when he grants authority to his subordinates, he will be getting the jobs done through his subordinates, and in this way, he can expand his areas of operation. So, he cannot just limit himself to 1 or 2 tasks and keep that to himself. So, when he is granting authority to his subordinates, the subordinates will get an opportunity to do the job, and then the manager also will be in a position to get the activities done. So, he will have a wide range of activities which will be done through this process of delegation. However, we should also understand that delegation does not mean abdication. Now, what is this abdication? That means abdication means he is not foregoing his authority. Authority will still with the manager, but he will be just granting the authority, that's all. But whole authority will rest with the manager itself. He is not completely losing all the authority. He will be just granting the authority to get the work done itself. So this we should be very clear about. Then next, even when the manager delegates, let us see, when the manager delegates authority, he will be still accountable for the performance of the assigned task. Then authority granted to a subordinate can be taken back and redelegated to another person. So this we should be very, very clear. Here, whenever a manager is granting his authority to his subordinate, he still becomes responsible for the activity. So when he is granting the authority to the subordinate, the manager is accountable for that. So if the subordinate has done a mistake, then the manager has to be accountable. So he has to just explain to his higher authorities why the mistake has occurred or why the error has occurred. So it is necessary for the manager to see that he delegates authority to a proper person who can do the job very well. So once you give authority to the subordinate, you can also have the freedom to take it back also. So the manager just cannot say that I have already given the authority to my subordinate, I cannot take it back. No, there is nothing like that. Suppose the manager feels that the subordinate is not doing a good job, he can always recall the authority and give that authority to a more efficient and able person. So this we should remember in case of delegation. Then next, thus irrespective of the extent of delegated authority, the manager shall still be accountable to the same extent as before delegation. So even before delegation, whatever authority he had, the same authority the manager will still be having. So he cannot just tell that I have delegated by authority, my responsibility is over. So he cannot escape from his responsibility and accountability. He will be still accountable for all the activities done by his subordinates. Now, next, let us look into what are the elements of delegation. Now, what does delegation actually involve? So, we know that delegation is granting of authority. Now, let us look into what is actually involves. So, delegation involves authority, responsibility and accountability. So, delegation is the entrustment of responsibility and authority to another and creation of accountability for performance. So, you are granting your authority to the subordinate. So, why you are granting authority to the subordinate? To see that he gets the work done. And then it is the responsibility of that person to get the work done and also make him accountable for the performance. So, when the manager is granting the authority, he makes that person responsible and also accountable for the performance of the job. So, this is one aspect of delegation. That is, the elements of delegation are authority, responsibility and accountability. Now, let us look into what are the essential elements of delegation. So, when we look into the elements of delegation, the first element is authority. Now, what is authority? Authority is the right of an individual to command his subordinates and take action within the scope of his position. So, authority is nothing but power. So, the power to give instructions. Suppose he is in the position of a manager. He has the power to give instruction to his subordinates who are working under him. Or it is the right of an individual to command his subordinates. He can give orders to his subordinates to take action. So, whatever action has to be taken for within the scope of his position. So, whatever command he is giving, so it should be restricted within the scope of his position. So, where does his authority stop? So, he should know that and he should know what are the limits of his authority, and within the limits, he should get the work done by his subordinates. Now, the concept of authority, if you can see here, there is the hammer here and it signifies authority. Now, the concept of authority arises from the established scalar chain which links the various job positions and levels of an organization. Now, in the concept of authority arises, so we all know that entire organization structure is linked with the chain of authority. So, we have created job positions within the departments and each position is interlinked. We have laid down a clarity of relationships, that is authority and responsibility relationships are all laid down by the top management, and based on that we will be working in the organization. So, here the concept of authority arises based on the scalar chain. So, whatever is the scalar chain running in the organization, in that chain only we have to just delegate the authority or grant authority to the subordinates. So, it will exist in all levels of the organization, right from the top level to the lowest level. So, whatever is the scalar chain being followed, the same scalar chain will be granting the authority to the next level of subordinates. So, it also refers to the right to take decisions inherent in a managerial position to tell people what to do and expect them to do it. So, what is the meaning of authority? Again, here it has been substantiated. So, authority also refers to the right to take decisions. So, when you are giving authority to somebody, so you are giving him the authority to take the right decisions to get the work done. So, you will be giving him authority to get the work done and tell the people what to do and what you expect them. So, you are giving them orders, you are giving them instructions, you are telling them what is the work they have to do and what is the time frame and what are the resources they need to utilize. So, all this will be done in authority. So, when you granting authority, so all this you will be delegating to the subordinate. So, why you are delegating? To get the work done in the organization. Then, next, we can also see that in a formal organization, authority originates by virtue of an individual's position, and the extent of authority is the highest at the top management and reduces successively as we go down the corporate ladder. Now, so we can see here, we can call him the team manager, and he is responsible and all others are behind him. So, whoever is in the highest level of authority, so he will be granting the authority to his subordinates, or he will be able to delegate his power to the subordinates, and it will be determined by his position. So, what position he is holding in the organization? By virtue of his position, the extent of authority is determined. We all know that authority is highest. In the topmost level, we have the authority. There is concentration of authority. It is highest here, whereas in the lowest levels of the organization, authority is lowest. So, as we go down the corporate ladder, we can see that the authority will start diminishing down the ladder. So, there is highest concentration of authority in the top management level, and it keeps on diluting when you come to the lowest levels of management. Now, here we can see that authority determines the superior-subordinate relationship, wherein the superior communicates his decision to the subordinate, expecting compliance from him, and he executes the decision as per the guidelines of the superior. So, in authority relationship, the superior will decide what is the work to be done, what authority he has to give to whom, and what job the subordinate has to do. So, everything will be decided by the superior, and based on his decisions, the subordinate will have to get the job done. So, whatever is being instructed, whatever he is being ordered by the superior, the subordinate has to do the job as per the guidelines of the superior. Then the extent to which the superior can exact compliance depends on the personality of the superior. Here if you can see in this diagram, this person is the superior and he is the subordinate. So the subordinate will be taking orders from the superior. So he is giving orders and he has to follow the orders. So we can see that superior is there, he is giving the orders to the subordinate and subordinate has to follow the orders as per the instructions and he has to take guidelines from the superior. Now, the extent to which the superior can exact compliance depends on the personality of the superior. Now, we have to also look into the personality of the superior. If he is a very strong person, then he will get the job done in a best possible manner. But if he is not very strong person, then the subordinates also will not be very strict in following his orders. So, the personality of the superior will be the decisive factor about how the subordinates will be looking for the orders. Then next, it must be also noted that authority is restricted by laws and rules and regulations of the organization. So whenever you are giving authority to the subordinates, so it is restricted by the rules and regulations of the organization. So as per the organizational rules, regulations and policies, so within that only he has to function. So as we go higher up in the management, the scope of authority increases. So when in the topmost management levels, as I had told previously, the authority will be highly concentrated, and as we go down the ladder, the authority keeps on diminishing. Next, let us look into the next element, that is responsibility. So if you can see here, people are pointing fingers at this person. So when any job is not done, so when you have delegated the authority to the subordinate, and if the subordinate does not do the job, then the manager becomes responsible for it. So people will start pointing fingers. So this is what we call as responsibility. So it is the obligation of the subordinate to properly perform the assigned duties. So the subordinate has to properly perform whatever duties has been assigned to him. So it is his responsibility. So he has to take the ownership. If the job is not done in the correct time frame and within the given time, then he will be responsible to the superior. Then it arises from superior-subordinate relationship because the subordinate is bound to perform the duty assigned to him by his superior. So, a responsibility will come on the subordinate when the superior gives him the authority to do the job, and it is the responsibility of the subordinate to get the job done, and he has to execute his job within the given time of the superior. Then we can also see that when authority is flowing from top to bottom, responsibility flows from bottom to top. Responsibility flows upwards. That is, a subordinate will be responsible to his superior, and superior has authority over the subordinate. So, authority will flow from top to bottom, whereas responsibility flows from bottom to top. So this we should understand. Then when an employee is given responsibility for a job, he must be also given the degree of authority necessary to carry it out. So when you are giving your subordinate any authority to do, if he is responsible for any of the activities to be done, then you should give him proper authority. What does it mean? Suppose he has to make use of the resources to get the job done, then you give him the authority to collect those resources and then get the job done. Otherwise, he will not be able to do the job. So, he should be given proper authority along with responsibility. only then we can get the job done. So here we say that for effective delegation, the authority granted must commensurate with the assigned responsibility. So whatever responsibility you are assigning to the subordinate, you should give certain degree of authority also is necessary when you are giving him the responsibility of doing the job. So if authority granted is more than responsibility, it may lead to misuse of authority. So when you are giving more authority, he may try to misuse his authority, and responsibility assigned is more than authority, it may make him ineffective. So if you are making him more responsible for all the jobs, then what happens is he cannot do the job if he does not have the authority. So authority and responsibility should go hand in hand, only then we can get the work done more efficiently and effectively. Next element of delegation is accountability. Now what is the meaning of the word accountability? Accountability means answerable for the final outcome. So we all know that the manager will be delegating his authority to his subordinates to get the job done, and along with authority he will be giving responsibility to his subordinates. Now what is this third element in delegation, which is called as accountability? So accountability means you are being answerable for the final outcome. Now the manager has given the authority and responsibility to subordinate. The subordinate has done the job and submitted it to the manager. Now the manager will be reporting that job to his higher up, and if there is any flaw or error or any mistake in the work done, then the manager himself becomes accountable. So he becomes answerable for any mistakes of his subordinates. So it simply means being answerable for the final outcome. Whatever is the final outcome of the work, he becomes answerable. Once authority has been delegated, responsibility accepted, one cannot deny accountability. So the manager just cannot wash his hand off and tell, I have entrusted it to my subordinate, it was his mistake. No, he becomes responsible for all the jobs which has come to him and which he has to do, and he becomes more accountable for all the activities. Now, accountability, it cannot be delegated and it flows upwards. So, we all know that authority will flow from top to bottom. Responsibility and accountability both will flow from bottom to top. It flows upwards. A subordinate will be accountable to a superior for satisfactory performance of work. So, a subordinate will be accountable to a superior. So, whenever you give the job to a subordinate, so he becomes accountable to the superior. The same way, the manager also will become accountable to his higher ups when he has been entrusted with any job. So, it indicates that manager has to ensure proper discharge of duties by his subordinates, and it is generally enforced through regular feedback to the extent of work accomplished. So, whatever is the work accomplished, and based on that feedback collected, so he or she becomes accountable for the work which is done. So, the person who is doing the job, he will become accountable, and also the manager who has given him the job to be done, he also becomes accountable to his higher ups. So, we should understand that authority always flows from top to bottom, whereas responsibility and accountability will flow from bottom to top. Now, next, the subordinate will be expected to explain the consequences of his actions or omissions. So, in accountability, we see that he should be given a chance to explain. So, if there is any mistake or if there is any problem with regard to the functioning of the activity which has been given to him, then he should be made to answer why he has made the mistake or why he has omitted something. So, this comes under accountability. So the manager has every right to ask the subordinate why he has not done the job or why there was a mistake in the job to be done. So in conclusion, we can state that while authority is delegated, responsibility is assumed, accountability is imposed. So authority is delegated. So authority you are granting from the superior to the subordinate, and responsibility is assumed. Who is assuming the responsibility? The subordinate will assume the responsibility, and accountability will be imposed. So whoever does the job, so he becomes answerable for any fault in the jobs. So accountability is imposed. So responsibility is derived from authority and accountability is derived from responsibility. So all these three concepts we should understand in this elements of delegation. So when you give authority, you are giving responsibility also, and through responsibility you become more accountable for the job which are done. Okay, so next we will look into the importance of delegation. Why delegation is important? So first thing is for effective management. So if you can see here, there is one person and there are all these subordinates, and you are delegating the powers to the subordinates. So by empowering the employees, the managers are able to function more efficiently as they get more time to concentrate on important matters. So as I told you earlier, the manager will have lot of work to do in his span of 6 to 7 hours in the office, and he cannot do all the job by himself, and to get the work done, he has to take the help of delegation. So when he is delegating the authority to his subordinates, so he is empowering his subordinates to get the job done. So that he can concentrate on important matters. So all the routine work, he can get it done through the subordinates. So freedom from doing routine work provides them with opportunities to excel in new areas. So the manager will be free to just concentrate on important policy decisions and give the routine work to his subordinates. So this is the first importance of delegation. Now the next importance of delegation is employee development. You can see that there is a rise in the career graph. This is the career graph, and we can see that the person is rising. How does he rise? Through employee development. So when you are giving your authority to your subordinates, the employees get more opportunities to utilize their talent, and this give rise to latent abilities in them. So when you are giving them more opportunities to come up, so you are just encouraging them to come up in life, or you are helping them to take initiative, take creative action and get the work done. So this will allow them to develop those skills which enable them to perform complex tasks and assume responsibilities which will improve their career prospects. So whatever career prospects they are having, they can come forward or they can get promoted to the higher positions when they are delegated with authority. So in other words, delegation will help in developing the employee as such. So he will be able to occupy higher positions in life when he has been delegated with certain authority. Then it makes them better leaders and decision makers. So delegation prepares the managers. So when you delegate something, you are giving them proper authority, and through authority they can also develop as better leaders and better decision makers. So through delegation, you are providing them a chance to use their skills, gain experience and develop themselves for higher positions. So with the help of delegation, you are giving them a chance to use their skills. So whatever skills they have, they can make use of it, and they can always develop themselves for higher positions in the organization. Then the third importance of delegation is motivation of employees. So what is this motivation? So motivation is the creating an urge in the employee to do the job in a better and interesting way. So you should try to create interest for the employee in doing the job. Now, motivation of employees. So delegation helps in developing the talents of employees. So how it helps in developing the talents? So it also has psychological benefits. When superior entrusts a subordinate with the task, it is not merely sharing of work, but putting trust on the superior's part and commitment on part of the subordinate. So we should understand that whenever a superior is entrusting the work to his subordinate, it is not just only sharing of work. We should not think that he is just sharing, the manager is just sharing his work with his subordinates, but it also involves the trust. So he has believed that this subordinate will do the job. So because he has belief in his subordinate, he is entrusting that part of the work to be done by his subordinate, and the commitment on the part of the subordinate. So the subordinate should also be equally do the job well as expected by his superior. So he should have a commitment that I will do the job as per the instructions of the superior. So both are equally responsible for getting the job done, and both should be equally welcome. That is, the manager welcome this delegation, and the subordinate should also be freely ready to accept this delegation of authority. Then responsibility of work builds the self-esteem of an employee and improves his confidence. So whenever you are giving this authority to the subordinate, he will have his own self-esteem. So it will help in gaining confidence in himself. So he feels that he is being recognized by his superior, and as a result of which he will rise in his own self-esteem, and it will also improve his confidence, and he feels encouraged and tries to improve his performance further. So in other words, when you are delegating your authority to the subordinate will be motivated to do better, because he feels that the superior has trusted him and he has chosen him to do the job, and it is his duty to get the job done in the best possible way. So he becomes more motivated to do the job. Then next importance of delegation is facilitation of growth. So what is this facilitation of growth? Facilitation of growth means expansion of the organization. So delegation helps in expansion of an organization by providing ready workforce to take up leading positions in new ventures. Okay, so what do we mean by expansion of the business? So when the business expands means you are creating more and more branches all over the country, or you are having more branches all over the world. So in this way the business expands, and when the business expands you are hiring more employees, and your scale or volume of operations keeps on increasing. So all this will happen when there is expansion of business. So this expansion of business can take place only when there is proper delegation of authority. So it helps in the expansion of an organization by providing a ready workforce to take up leading positions in new ventures. So when you are delegating the authority to your subordinate, you are indirectly creating future leaders and future managers. So when you have already trained them to become future managers, it will be easy for the company need to expand. So if one of the subordinate is done his job very well, then you can just appoint him as a branch leader in a new branch. So in this way, you can see that you can slowly expand the business by giving proper training to the subordinates through delegation. Then trained and experienced employees are able to play significant roles in the launch of new products by replicating the work ethos they have absorbed from the existing units in the newly set up branches. So as I explained earlier, through this process of delegation, we are having trained and experienced subordinates. So they will be in a better position to handle new products. So when you are giving them a new project, so they will imbibe the work ethos which is already existing in the organization, and they will see that they get the job done in the new branches. So when you set up a new branch, you appoint one of your subordinate as a branch leader and see that he does the job well in the new branch. So this indirectly helps facilitation of growth in the organization. Then the fifth importance of delegation is basis of management hierarchy. We can see this management hierarchy here, that is top level, middle level and the lowest levels of management. So based on the management hierarchy, we have this levels of authority given. So delegation of authority establishes superior subordinate relationships which are the basis of hierarchy of management. So they are the basis of hierarchy of management. As I told you earlier, here the authority is highest here in the top level, and here as we come down, it comes to the lowest level. So authority is concentrated and here it is diluted. We can see that there is dilution of authority in the lowest level and highest concentration in the highest levels of management. Now, the delegation of authority establishes superior subordinate relationships which are the basis of hierarchy of management. Then we can also see that the degree and flow of authority which determines who has to report to whom, the extent of delegated decides the power that each job position enjoys in the organization. So the basis of management hierarchy is decided by this process of delegation. So with this help of delegation, you can grant authority, confer authority to your subordinates and see that the job is done well. Then next importance of delegation is better coordination. Now what is this coordination? So the elements of delegation, that is authority, responsibility and accountability, helps to define the powers, duties and answerability related to various positions in the organization. So we all know that what is the meaning of the word authority, what is responsibility and what is accountability. So authority means power, responsibility means duties and accountability means answerability. So when you have all these, they are all closely related to the various positions in the organization. So if you are a general manager of the organization, so you will have more authority, and if you are a assistant general manager, so you will have a lesser degree of authority, and so on and so forth. Just like this in the corporate ladder, the authority keeps on diminishing. So we should understand that authority, responsibility and accountability, they all cling to the position which the person holds in the organization. So whatever position he has, so if he is in the position of a foreman, so he will have authority only over the technical staff who are working in the organization. He will have his, if he is a foreman, then he will be able to command the supervisors. Then supervisor will be able to command only the laborers in the organization. So we can see that depending on the position which he is having in the organization, we can decide the degree of authority, responsibility and accountability, and when you are having this delegation, it leads to better coordination. We will know who is responsible for what and what work who has to do and how and where, and everything related to the work will be decided through this process of delegation, which in turn helps in better coordination of all the activities. So, they will be avoiding overlapping of duties and duplication of effort, as it gives a clear picture of work being done at various levels. So, various levels, there will be activities being carried out at the various levels of organization. So, when you are having a clear-cut delegation, there will be better coordination of activities and there is no duplication of effort. So, when we have assigned the job to a particular person, so he will be doing the job to his best ability. So, he will be answerable. Then we cannot assign the same job to somebody else. So, in this way, we can see that there is no duplication of effort and there is no overlapping of duties, and there will be better coordination in carrying out the activities of the organization. Then we can also see that clarity in reporting relationships helps in developing and maintaining effective coordination among the departments. So, when you are having proper clarity in reporting relationships, that is, who is the boss, who is the subordinate, we will be having a better coordination among departments, levels and functions of management. So, when you have proper levels of delegation, so we can have proper coordination among departments. So, as we have observed in the previous classes, so we see that there are various bases for the organization structure. So, you can either have an organization structure based on functions or based on product lines. So, depending on the structure, you can have various departments, and based on these departments, you need to have coordination among the departments. Only through coordination, cooperation and delegation, we can see that the activities of the organization carried out smoothly. So, delegation is a key element in effective organization. So, in this session, we have discussed the various elements of delegation and also the importance of delegation. Hope you have all understood whatever we have discussed in this session. Thank you.